Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome back. If you were here for all of the crazy testing we did in previous expansions, we are now in the Shadowlands testing for the alpha. And I'm just going to get a little bit of a early head scratch going on there, a little of that temple rub, because we just started. Did Balance Druid first, and Feral Druid, then Guardian Druid, and Restoration Druid will be on the horizon. Check out my how I'm going to test, or how I plan to test video, if you're curious to how the assortment of these is going to roll out and change and be different than the previous ones, because there's going to be dungeons included, there's going to be Torghast included, there's going to be other things down the road. But right now, what I'm going to be very brief about is that I'm going to assume, and I'll say this in like every other couple of videos or so, because not everyone's going to listen to every single one of these. I'm going to assume that you've read either the Wowhead or the MMO Champion posts. I'm going to assume that you've looked at some of the core base changes that are going to each class. We're not going to go over every single thing. I'm focusing on the core changes and the big notable things that are going from Battle for Azeroth into Shadowlands. So I hope you know how long this video is. As I'm recording it, I don't know how long this video is, but I want these to be a little more digestible. The beta second pass videos, the like pre-launch impressions are going to be probably a little longer. We'll go into a little more detail on things. We'll integrate potential Covenant things and all that kind of stuff. But for this video, of course, it is going to be the Balanced Druid. And this video is brought to you by my social media. So if you aren't yet following me on, say, Facebook, if you do the Book of Faces, or of course Twitter being a little more apt, and even Instagram, who knows? Links are down below. Twitter, when I post when I go live, when I post when this video is going up, I post when the stream is up. Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern for the next foreseeable 4 to 5 months. If you are when the stream is live, of course, hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things are there. If you want to know when I'm doing the testing, best place for you to see on Twitter. So, 2 minutes in, enough rambling. We're looking at the Balanced Druid today. While this swirls in the background, this add-on is called Narcissus, Narcissus. I know everyone's gonna be like, what is that? It's an add-on. It uses way more than this, but anyway. Biggest thing that I put in here in my notes to read off with right now is the new Eclipse system. Again, they're revengeing the Electric Boogaloo Part 2. So it cannot be a new WoW expansion without a new Eclipse system for the Moonkins, right? New Eclipse. That's how it all works, right? And this one is, it's kind of Wrath of the Lich King. I have some old information here I can pull up. So I'm going to read. So Wrath of the Lich King Eclipse was critically hitting with Starfire, had a chance to increase the damage of your Wrath. And when you critically hit with Wrath, it had a chance to increase your damage with Starfire. And yes, right off the bat, it is now right back to, we're back to the Starfire and Wrath. No more Solar Wrath, no more Lunar Strike. It's just Wrath and Starfire. The new Eclipse, though, is 2 parts. This would be like the biggest chunk of me trying to explain this, and we'll start hitting the dummy in a moment here to show you what I'm talking about. And then we'll go through some talents and things. Again, if not a lot of things have changed or you haven't looked at stuff, I am going to assume that you have seen things. I'm not going to go over every single little detail again. This is a primer, one expansion to the next. Total Eclipse of the Heart. Right off the bat, this one is... It's easier to understand than it was in the past. Your current Eclipse right now, which is it's called Starlight, I believe. So it increases your Moon Fire, Sun Fire, Stellar Flare, Star Surge, and Starfall damage by a flat amount. And then on top of that, gives you an additive bonus of damage to your Lunar and Solar Empowerments. Well, Empowerments are gone. Those don't exist. They're no such thing anymore. Now it's just that your Solar Eclipse increases all nature damage dealt, and your Lunar Eclipse increases all arcane damage dealt. So that's just the core of how this is going to work. And the Eclipse Passive is that both Starfire or Wrath, respectively, depending on which one you're casting, each have a 25% chance to empower the other spell. And then when you're in that spell, of course, that's when total eclipse takes over. So when you're in solar eclipse, your wrath cast time is decreased by 15% and the damage goes up by 20. And when you're in lunar, your starfire cast time is reduced by 15% and the area of effect damage, which is still there in starfire, goes up by 100%. It's a little less than its initial hit damage, but it still has the 8-yard cleave around it. And then again, go back over here to wrath. Pew, 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 pew. Spam those wraths. And that's how that works, right? Now, on paper, there is also a internal cooldown on when eclipses can proc. Currently, the internal cooldown, as it says, the internal, been talking for like 6 hours straight before recording the video. So it's gonna be a little bit stream of consciousness, a little ranty. It's a 30-second internal cooldown. These, however, are independent. There is a solar eclipse internal cooldown and a lunar eclipse internal cooldown. You cannot activate these at the same time when you are not in your major cooldown celestial alignment or incarnation, of course. You have to go from one to the other. So this is the big change here. Go over my notes real quick to make sure. You're no longer the standard builder spender. Obviously, you still build and spend your astral power like you did before. But the thing about the 30-second internal cooldown on these windows is that they, and we went over this for like an hour and a half during the testing live stream. So if you want to go through all of that, that'll be linked down below, of course, or on the channel guide where everything will get coagulated. You can game the system kind of, but if you go through the whole thing or was there for the whole testing period, I was actually doing the dungeon for this video or for this testing section with Sios, who is like OG grandfather, granddaddy Moonkin. So it was awesome to have him there. You're still basically going to play the Eclipse regardless of the situation you're in. So you might have noticed Wrath no longer has the little cleave effect to it anymore. There's no weird extra cleave. Wrath is single target. You pull your Danny DeVito guns out and you blast. And then Starfire gets back into it does the AoE cleave. Currently no target cap on Starfire. So you're still going to probably pay attention to your Eclipse period. But there is some ways to game it. There'll be add-ons you can pay attention to. There'll probably be a weak aura that comes out eventually. That if you say, for example, I want to go into there's AoE, there's trash mobs coming up, right? So I don't want to go into my lunar eclipse just yet. So you'll keep using your Starfires because you're blasting and you're blasting ads. And then there'll be some priority target damage you can throw in your wraths. But you don't want to extend your solar rather. You want to go into lunar. And right after, there it is. You're back in your lunar. So there is a ebb and a flow there where you can pay attention to your ICD or when your last one was, and you'll sort of get the feel for it. Because again, they're 30 seconds each, separated, and they are independent and they're their own timer. So once you go in to an Eclipse window, which by default lasts for 10 seconds, the timer starts. So when you go into Solar Eclipse, you have 30 seconds before you can go back into it, but 10 seconds of that plus more will already begin that Eclipse cycle anyway. And by the plus more, this is the new thing. So Star Surge and Starfall have been changed to go with the new system. Star Surge now costs 30 astral power down from 40. It's usable for both single target, like weaved damage, or for burst damage. This is going to be your heaviest hitting spell. This thing trucks. Now down here, this is currently bugged, extending any active eclipse by 3 seconds. We don't know if it's supposed to be 3, or currently it's giving us 2 seconds. This extends the duration of your current eclipses. or all of them, or both of them. The both of them, as the side note, Celestial Alignment gives you both, but Star Surge obviously by default would extend the add time onto the current one. But adding 2 seconds right now is really bad. It basically pays for 1 GCD instead of giving you more time. So it does feel like that this is not intentional. And this is probably going to be changed soon. If you actually watch the timer in the corner there, let's go to 5, 4, then it goes to 6, back to 5, 4, 3, 2, back to 4, back to 3. So it's not adding the 3 seconds it should. If it adds 3, you'll actually be able to really gain time. It's currently averaged out. You get about 16 seconds of an Eclipse window. As you gain more haste, or during the Lust windows, it's very possible to be 24 plus seconds in an Eclipse window. So you can basically stay Eclipsed Solar almost the entire duration. And then once that duration ends, you'll immediately go into Lunar. So you'll go right into Lunar. And then once that ends, you'll go right into Solar. You'll almost always be empowered as your gear goes up and you weave your spells properly, and you never have to get into mechanics, so you never have to move or do anything else. So the other one there, Starfall, which you might be asking about, there's rank 2 Starfall over there. We'll get to that in a moment. Starfall is 50 Astral Power, which is the same. It's a 10-second duration with a talent. I had Stellar Drift down here. So it's 8 seconds by default. I wrote down my notes incorrectly. So what Starfall does now is it deals a heavy amount of astral damage. Astral damage, remember that word. Astral damage is both arcane and nature. So it will benefit from either Eclipse window that you're in, because either one will buff it by 37% currently. But this is the interesting part that wraps these two abilities together. Star Surge is astral. Starfall is astral. If you are in Celestial Alignment, currently, this was blue posted a while ago, that it is intended Star Surge and Starfall double dip mastery. Like I said earlier in the opening, you cannot be in both outside of Celestial Alignment, but when you go into Celestial Alignment, both of the buffs stack. It's multiplicative, sure, but it's still going to be a huge bonus to both windows. 4K crit right there. What does Wrath hit for comparatively? I mean, 400, like a 500 crit. So it is your heaviest hitting spell for sure. And the same thing goes with Starfall. So Celestial Alignment is now changed to be essentially a mastery amp on top of its utility of the Eclipse windows, and on top of the fact that it works at both single target with Star Surge and AoE with Starfall. And the thing I was talking about with weaving Star Surges is, say, for example, you have... I was doing this a bit in the dungeon. Say, for example, you have a boss change coming up, right? And you want to... We're going to do a little more prep here for this right now. Is that we want to have, because of DPS and button spamming, Wrath is better. Numbers aside, who cares about numbers right now? But Wrath is better for, like, the boss tunneling, right? Is you want to blast the boss. And say, for example, you have this damage switch coming soon. And Star Surging to not waste Astral Power when you don't have an Eclipse up shouldn't really happen very often. But say you just moved, get your dots up, right? And then you're ready to start blasting the boss. There's some tentacle spawning or whatever, right? So you're going to bait some Starfires after the ICD, and you're going to immediately go into your Wrath, and you can hit 3 back-to-back surges. Maybe we're going to rotate in a little bit of Fury of Elune there because it generates some more. And by default, you're going to weave your Star Surges in there. But if you saw how the start, you can pool and throw off 3 big blasts. And of course, you can do that right when you do Celestial Alignment as well. You can pool to it. Celestial Alignment gives you 30 upon activation. Get to 70, 65 maybe, so you don't want to overpool if you have dots or whatever. CA, and then you can just surge, surge, surge. Which is, again, that's a burst window versus, again, if you're just weaving your spells as you normally would to extend the current duration that you're on. So let me get into a window right here real quick. Okay, so there's Lunar. And they've got, you know, you weave your spell, follow the GCD with it to add time. Follow the GCD with it. Just patchworky kind of stuff right now, right? I have Star-Lord stacks right now, ignore that. But then now, another couple of Starfires, we're going to a Wrath window. Right here. Yep, right there. From all the playing today, because you know the internal cooldown is happening, and based on cast times and how long you're in a window, you kind of get this feel for when you're about to go in. And you can actually almost like pre-cast, like right here. Let me see if I can do it. 1, 2, 3. I show the yeah, see, I pre-cast. Oh, I started casting. Like I knew the Starfire was coming, because once the amount of time you're spent in the window cools down your Eclipse window, and then you'll be in the next window by the time you're done rotating the other spell, if that makes sense. You just saw me do it twice. So this one will go into Wrath. Nope, one more. You're not supposed to cancel it. One more. So I was off by 1. But you get that, and you control it, right? Because if you only cast like one spell, you'll only push the cooldown for 1. Like if you keep casting the Starfires, you'll keep getting Lunar. But if you're AoEing at the time, maybe it's better to do it at the time. And then once you immediately switch and cast a Wrath or 2 or 3, you'll go into your Lunar Eclipse for the AoE damage, or again, for hitting other abilities, other spells, giving you a guaranteed moment of time there, depending on if you're Twin Moonsing, for example, or something like that. There's little windows of time that you can play that around. So that's the big change, right? Hopefully, we went over this for an hour and a half, and trying to condense that into the start of this video is a big deal. So, nature damage on your solar eclipse, arcane damage on your lunar eclipse. Eclipses reduce the cast time of the associated spell, increase the AoE on your Starfires, increase the damage done on your Wraths. And then Star Surge has the weave to extend or to build and pool and then burst with. And Starfall again is the other big change. I didn't even show off the animation for it, I don't think yet. So Starfall is no longer a cast AoE. Starfall is a 40-yard big old circle around the Druid. You see the edge of it right there between the target dummies? It moves with you. So yes, this means immediately those Druids out there, Stellar Drift, if talented, means you can just move while in your Starfall. And Stellar Drift giving you 2 more seconds of duration, which means it takes it from 8 to 10. You can just Starfall and keep moving and casting. Could be good for heavy movement fights, depending on the damage requirement, but the damage that a Starfall will do, even factoring in Mastery, is way less than a Star Surge will do, since the potential for lining up Star Surges with Celestial Alignment, and again, this happens instantly. This is happening over 8 to 10 so seconds. It's the burst versus utility versus movement versus not. But the rank 2 Starfall, which you get at level 54 as you level up, this will change how Starfall works in the rotation by being a spell you weave in after you've dotted your stuff up for AoE, and you'll maintain your dots. Then you'll pay attention to your Eclipse window back and forth, right? And then Starfall extends the duration of Moonfires and Sunfires that are active when cast. I'm not sure how this will work with like range, and if you have it up, can you like walk into your dot? We can't test it right now, right? Can you walk into your dots that are out but haven't been hit by a Starfire yet? Will that add 4 seconds, or is it only on active dots that are in the area when you do cast? We don't know, because we can't. We're not 54 yet. We can only level to 53 on the alpha servers right now, so we can't test it. But this will change how that works. And Starfall is a 10-second, or in this case, 8 seconds. 8-second duration. There's no pandemic, so you really don't want to... You're not going to want to like cast it twice in a row, even though I have no idea. If you cast it twice in a row, do you add 8 seconds to your dots? I don't know. Is that going to be better? Like if you just spam it, would you add more time? But realistically, you would hit it and then either rotate your Starfires or rotate your Wraths in, depending on your empowerment, and then you would hit it again. So, but while you're doing that though, because you're only getting so many GCDs of spells in and around, how it should work with rank 2 here is that you shouldn't ever have to reapply your dots, or very, very infrequently, depending on your uptime on Starfall, would you have to reapply your dots. You should be able to weave some spells, get your dots out there, Starfall, add 4 seconds, weave a couple more spells, Starfall, add 4 seconds, etc. So maintain, adhere to the Eclipse window, game it if you need to, etc. Other big changes here, of course, are the Astral power changes. You may have seen as I've been mousing over a couple of things here, but Wrath is 6, down from 8. Starfire is 8, down from 12. And Moonfire and Sunfire are 2, down from 3. Now, this is in the blue post this went up, which I'll link down below as well. This is to give you more time to be able to pool, because the Astral power rotation window is pretty quick comparatively what this is going to be, because of the pooling potential of waiting, like I've said before a couple different times, with both Starfall and Star Surge weaving or timing windows. If you gained as much Astral power as you do on live, you would rotate through it quicker. But you do it on BFA's version because of the whole empowerment system, where you basically want to build, gain charges of your either spells, right? And then you use them. So you want a Star Surge to build up like 2 or 3 charges of your empowerments and then slam off 3 Starfires or slam off 3 Wraths. This has the window of time you interact with, where once you go into the Eclipse window, by essentially knowing when the timing is, paying attention to the ICD, gaming it potentially by only doing one and then immediately popping to the other, because if you cast the spells when the ICD is at 0, there is a bit of bad luck protection behind the scenes here with the Eclipse window. The Druids are going to figure this out, but essentially what was happening is that from a cold cast, it's no more than 4. This would be the 4th cast that should go in. Oh, see, it did. I was almost like, oh, but it did. It's also on spell landing equals Eclipse. So it's not just a 25% chance, but it is a compounding 25% chance, or the deck system, where if there's 4 cards in front of you and you cast a Wrath and you don't roll it, then you'd remove that card from the deck. So it's 25% chance. There's only 3 cards left. So it's more like a 33% chance. You see what I mean? Then you remove another card when you miss. It's half and half. So by your 4th, if not 5th, almost guaranteed cast, you go into a Eclipse window. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. See? So there is a bad luck protection window behind it. That's why I said you can kind of feel for it. Talent-wise, though, let me double check here. We already went through your major cooldowns, your mastery, all that stuff is good to go. The ICD and things, independent with itself, very gameable by the player. Leaving Solar and immediately going back into Solar is also possible. You can kind of string them together with Celestial Alignment, which I can also show here in a moment, because I'll do cooldown stuff. Obviously, it delays a little bit. But talent-wise, I want to double check here. Incarnation is you gain CA now. Baseline has 15% critical strike chance. As long as your Eclipse windows persist, you gain 15% crit. No more haste anymore. When you go into Incarnation, you keep the 15% crit, you gain 15% haste, and it just gives you a 30-second window, which may or may not be able to extend, but again, the 2-second thing is hard to tell if it doesn't extend right. So this is like a big Eclipse window with additional haste versus the base one. Star-Lord's the same, feels kind of weird with Starfall. Soul of the Forest now, this gives you 5% more cast time reduction in Eclipse, so it takes your cast times down but from 15 to 20% down. And this gives you the duration increase, so your Eclipse windows would be... Apparently this is not the rest area, I have to walk over here. The Eclipse window lasts 13 seconds base, which is why I wrote that in my notes incorrectly, up from the 10 seconds base of Soul of the Forest. Stellar Flare, Astral damage, so it both sides if you're in CA. Fury of Elune, same deal. So Fury of Elune, I changed all my talents a bit when I was doing the dungeon, so it does feel it's pretty fun. Twin Moons, again, is still just the Moonfire. New Moon still feels kind of weird. It does huge damage 25-second recharge feels too long, but we'll see how that works. Shooting Stars, little less astral power. It's 2 AP down from 4. Nature's Blessing is a pretty big one. It's 1 AP per 2 seconds while in combat. You still hit the 50 AP window in the mid. Feels really good to open with the 50 AP, especially with Fury of Elune here. We'll let my AP get back up there, I suppose. But there isn't a whole lot of change here. Force of Nature is still to give you your 20, but obviously it's more for the utility there. But Warrior of Elune now has a potential for on the pull because you can just blast off Starfires in a row, or because now you sit in the window so long, you can not only weave Starfires for the AoE and cleave, but also Warrior of Elune and go bam, bam, bam. Something like that on top of a Fury of Elune window going out, or a new moon, where you can essentially do like the half moon, Warrior of Elune, full moon, Warrior of Elune burst window. Who knows, right? This is all, a lot of talents are always numbers. We don't have soul binds yet. We don't have soul, the conduit madness. We had no idea. But say, for example, on an opener now then, because this gives you the additional 50 to sit at, and you gain 30 when you actually align. Say you're doing a single target boss, you want to get to like 70 here. Well, that's 68 right there, right? And then you would be able to go right in to your Wrath window, dump your alignments, get your Fury of Elune on there. Obviously, I'd have dots up. I'm just doing the opener here. And then you could dump 2 more again because you're doubling up with the Fury of Elune generation. We'll do 1 more. And you see Eclipse is still procced in the top corner. I'm still going. I can get 1 more. Oh, 1 more. Yeah. So that was all like pure single target. And that was almost 30 seconds or more, if not, of being in the Eclipse window with just using Celestial Alignment. And then the moment you get out of that, if you switch, because Celestial Alignment changed, I got out of combat here. Celestial Alignment resets your Eclipse window. So you can go, say, you can force a Solar Eclipse window, be in Solar, Celestial Align, reset both, stay in Solar, essentially. And then the moment you get out of your Celestial Alignment window, then you can cast some Starfires to go right back into Solar. Because the reset window there. There's a lot going on with that core change. Let me know what you think about the core change, of course. Again, I'm not going to go over every single thing here. I imagine you can read the Wowhead post or the MMO Champion post. Other things of note for the Druid class, you may have seen it here. Typhoon is baseline for the Balanced Druid now. No longer do you need to have the affinity for it or anything like that, right? It's just in, or you don't have to talent it rather. Heart of the Wild goes there now, which is coming back to empower your affinity's version of spells. Restoration Affinity has Ursul's Vortex in it. Guardian Affinity has Incapacitating Roar. Feral Affinity has Maim, which does require you to build combat, combo points and get in there. We have Cyclone is back for all druids. Immune, obviously. But Cyclone is back for all druids baseline. And Stampeding Roar is baseline for all druids. If you are in Moonkin form or caster form, Stampeding Roar puts you in bear form. If you are in cat form, you stay cat form. But say, for example, I'm in Thunder Chicken form and I Stampeding Roar, I'm going to go into a bear, but you can obviously just power shift right back out, essentially, and go right back in here. But if you, say, hit dash then to catch up with the group and then Stampeding Roar, you'll stay in cat form. So there is still that, you're a druid, you're going to shapeshift. It's sort of part of your whole shtick, right? But that's the rambles. That's the whole thing. Let me double check my notes real quick here. Yeah, if you're in bear, tree, or chicken form, you go bear form. Cat equals cat, roar, cyclone, all druids, typhoon for balance. In balance affinity, if you're not the chicken, of course, you get typhoon there. So it's not tied to, because everyone gets Heart of the Wild. So Typhoon is now part of the Balance Affinity spec. Slight other additions, I suppose, here. Let's see. Resto Affinity. This is a note we wanted to make sure people are aware of. It does read this way, and it is 100% this way, that if you take Resto Affinity because you want the extra healing utility, of course, Swift Mend does eat the hot in the order that it says on the tooltip. So it'll always try to go for a regrowth because it's the weakest hot, then wild growth, the middle hot, and then the rejuvenation, the biggest hot. So if you wanted to plan around for that, that's how that works. So if you're actually looking for like the best bang for your buck burst healing, you would regrowth into a swift mend. Swift mending, because it is not a balance ability, does, as you saw there, take you out of Moonkin form still, but regrowth doesn't because it's the base ability. But obviously, so that will, and if you want a wild growth, of course, wild growth will pull you out because these are resto spells. But for the burst healing, it'll always eat your regrowth hot to swift mend there. But that's about it that we tested today. Of course, if you want to check out the entire VOD of the, that was a huge miss. This is a boss dummy. That Starfall Star Surge rather just flew off in the distance. But we're back Monday through Friday. We'll be doing these videos, and these will, well, the videos themselves will be a little bit different of the cadence. The streams 1 p.m. Eastern Monday through Friday. Saturday off. Sunday will be like Final Fantasy remake right now, or remaster, remake. I've been talking for too damn long. This is like 6 hours straight. I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here for the past testing videos. This will get a little more streamlined in the future. It's the first one, so it's just kind of like getting back into the whole. Y'all are cute. Thank you for watching. Leave me your thoughts down below, or tune into the live streams. Balanced Druid. What do you think? What do you think?